Trungpa Rinpoche, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche called it spiritual warrior. That's a little martial for moi, but spiritual hero, spiritual leader, wise elder, altruistic compassionator. That would be a nice Netflix, The Compassionator, starring Bodhisattva. I'm glad I got some laughs. I need some new material. If anybody hasn't, please send it in. Glad to get it. Always glad to hear your jokes. And people often ask me how I'm dealing with things these days, you know, and of course, many of us talk about that to each other and with others. Looks like I'm muted. People are often asking me how I'm doing these days, or how I deal with things in these crazy days, or whatever adjective they throw in. You know, anxious days, nutty days, uncertain days, challenging days. Anyway, also miraculous, beautiful days just to be alive. I'm looking around. None of us are getting any younger. I won't mention any names. Yes, if you think it's you, Grandma, it is. I see you, or whoever. And it's my way of loving you and seeing you and, you know, connecting. I don't want to mention all your names. I would like to see some younger people here. It's nice to see the Mawks, the young Mawks over there in the heartland in Kansas City, whatever state that's in, nobody knows. I've been in Kansas City. I thought I was in Kansas, but they said it's in Missouri. Then they tell me there's two Kansas cities, one on each side of the river. That's why I gave up. Went back to New York with my tail between my legs. No, it's terrible what's going on in this world. It's hard to know, you know, geography, even the new names of all the countries and places. I'm still struggling. Now I'm writing my memoir, and it's really hard not to think and write. So I just do Bombay, Madras, Peking, and all these other anachronistic, outmoded names for places that all have new names now. Burma, I've been in Burma several times. I've never been in Myanmar, though. I don't know if I'm looking around. Has anybody here been in Myanmar? No, I don't think so. No, Tara, you were in Burma. No, you've been in Myanmar since it changed? Okay. Anyway, it's a good time if you're changing things, you know, it's free, it's open, it's gender equal. We're all with and stand with the LGBTQ and other communities and people finding themselves, new ways of relating, new ways of defining ourselves. I'm not just warbling on here. This is important for these days. And, you know, also these days of alternative facts, fake news, all kinds of things. Need I mention thousands of sort of, dare we say, proven lies, even at the highest levels in our society. So who knows? It's hard to know what's true and what's real. Doesn't that come back to our Dharma, our liberating, beautiful Dharma, whether it's Buddha Dharma or just good transformative spirituality of whatever kind moves and touches oneself and us together. Meditating, becoming clearer. What's the first step on Buddha's eightfold noble path? Clear seeing, wise understanding, wisdom, however you want to translate it. Not meditation, not ethics, not generosity, not restraint or renunciation. Wisdom, discriminating, discerning wisdom, and cultivating that. So that's what we're doing. When we become clear, everything becomes clearer. Less important, seeing different things is seeing things differently. concluded. Then we don't really have to go anywhere to be in the Pure Land, to find the heaven that they say is within all and each of us, not just me, myself, and I, the triumvirate, the military junta that has ruled my being for so long. I'm retiring from that selfing project. Consider it. And moving from me to we. How many cliches do I need to make up and put out? We don't even do bumper stickers anymore. We have social media for that. From me to we, it's important, I think. But you tell me if it's important to you. So this is an important month. The Dalai Lama's birthday is July 5th, in a couple days, right after our American Interdependence Day, as I like to call it. Why can't we change that name too? Do we really have to be American exceptionalists and independent from Europe and everybody else? Is that even possible anymore? I'm declaring Interdependence Day. I've been saying this for decades, but now I've been very patient. Now that we have a majority, I think we're ready to declare July 4th as Interdependence Day and start seeing what the implications of that are and adjusting our agreements, if not laws, our agreements and customs in that direction. Interbeing, interwoven, interconnected, interdependent with all and everyone and everything, including the environment and all the animals and beings, not just the human beings. It's also around the time of the Buddha's birthday or Enlightenment Day or whatever they call it. You know, there's many different Buddhist countries and traditions around the world. It's an ancient, but times it's a 2600 year. I'm looking this up because I forgot already what I wanted to say that Menla told me to say. Menla really gives me a whole speech every time Sunday, and I have to pass it on to you because she's too shy. Excuse me. Yes, the Wesak festival, the full moon in May or June, the Buddha's Enlightenment Day. Some call it the Buddha's birthday. We've recently had that. And now we're approaching the midsummer holiday of Buddha coming down from Tushita heaven. There are 4 main Buddhist holidays. That's one of them. Anyway, I'm not going to belabor that. Bit of Orientalia, the 4 holidays. Turning the Wheel Day, when he first taught in the Deer Park at Sarnath outside Benares. Coming down from teaching his late mother in heaven. Buddha's Enlightenment Day, full moon in May. And then there's the 4th one. You can look it up. I can't remember. It's a good one, I'm sure. And then every full moon and new moon we celebrate according to the lunar Buddhist, Asian, Tibetan, Chinese, etc. calendar. But today's Sunday here. I'm looking around the room. In our culture, I guess we could call it in the West, in the Gregorian calendar, the year, whatever it is, hard to believe, 2022. In my mind, I'm still in the 20th century, which means 1900s, if I remember correctly. It's confusing. Better just be here now, that's what I say. Retiring from the selfing project, from building up our self and our life and going from dependence to independence and interdependence. Interbeing, one with all. And learning to love even those we don't like, as Buddha said. Or maybe that was Jesus, who knows? Confusing. The theme today seems to be confusion. Maybe I've been listening to the news and the hearings in Washington too much. What? Buddha changed his testimony? Wisdom is not the first step on the noble path? People have been saying it for 2,600 years. Oh, never mind. Let's put making ourselves great again first. Oops, I'm slipping. I'm slipping off of the spiritual. Let's stay with that. Not that it's separate from the rest of our life. Better just being here now. Just sitting, just breathing, just being. It's so refreshing, so relaxing. I love it. The joy of meditation and beyond, the joy of non-meditation, unmeditation, the joy of being. Not just of becoming, achieving, accumulating, competing, or worse, warring. The shortest Sanskrit sutra. Look it up. The syllable the first letter of the Tibetan alphabet or Sanskrit alphabet. We even chant this sometimes. For more advanced practice, we chant 5 times, as here on the cover of the Longchenpas, 7 treasures, storehouses, 7 treasures. The mandala, the 5 ahs of the 5 colors of the 5 directions. As above, so below, the 5 directions, representing the 5 limbs of our body, the 5 senses, the 5 skandhas comprising our individuality, the 5 skandhas, the aggregates, the 5 skandhas, and the 5 wisdoms, the 5 senses arising as the 5 wisdoms, seeing through separateness and pure awareness in the senses, being our intelligence agents, rather than like Velcro, hooks and rings, getting us entangled. Intelligence agents. Anyway, you can study those subjects. You can read books about them in Trungpa, Rinpoche, Nova Rinpoche, and some Western authors too. Very interesting. So now let's have a moment of silence for all those suffering and war-torn lands and refugees, for all those suffering at the hands of the seemingly endless, nothing's endless, the ongoing pandemic. Suffering at the hands of greed, anger, delusion, pride, and jealousy, the 5 poisons that can be transmuted, transformed, transmuted into the 5 gnosis or the 5 innate wisdoms. Moment of silence for peace, harmony, reconciliation, forgiveness, and love in this benighted world. Oh, bodhisattvas, who is to be, awaken us, compassionators. A moment of noble silence, noble solitude, noble being, sattvic, sattvas. Yatsen chogging Kodu Kandra Ma Boko Gyaki Jesu Tatri Chila Jisha So Good Herb and Mas Om Ah Om Ah Ben Zagur Pemas Om Ah Ben Zag Pemas Sangha, Dharma, Buddha, Om Ben Zagur Pemas Om Ben Zagur Pemas. Offering up our body, speech, energy, heart, mind, Ben Zagur Pemas to the three jewels, to something beyond ourselves, to the highest purpose and intentions of Bodhisattva. And Om Hamas. Om Ahum. Om Ahum Ben Zagur Pemasid. Om Ahum Ben Zagur Pemas. So the three jewels, three roots, the three tires, offering our body, speech, and energy, and heart, mind, including one and all in our sterling aspirations, bodhicitta, bodhisattva prayers and practices today, for the benefit of one and all, to become better people, contribute to a better world, to be grateful for all we received, including even just this miracle of birth, of life, growing up together, and pay it forward to the new generations and who's yet to come. Imaho. Thank you. Ah, how sweet it is. Like the full moon, look into the mirror of shunyata, so-called emptiness, and recognize your own projections and interpretations. Everything's so subjective. The five senses as the five wisdoms, including the five directions. The five limbs, the five skandhas of individuality, the five inherent gnosis or wisdoms, the five Buddha families, as they call it. Imaho. Way to go, friends, to have arrived at last. How sweet it is. I think we deserve a gong for that. To have arrived at last, here and now. It's kind of incontrovertible. Who can argue with it? Because it is what it is. How can you argue with that? No, it isn't what it is. Who's on first, etc. So much confusion. No need to set it all down. All the balls we're trying to keep in the air, juggling, holding in mind, keeping together, like always blowing out in the bubble, never blowing in. Mutual reciprocity is where it's at, not hijacking all the giving, not being a codependent caretaker, be a caregiver, friends of Bodhisattva. Breathing out, breathing in, dissolving or seeing through the separation, the difference between self and other, good and bad, up and down, past and future, just being present. It's a gift. be present and awakeful, interdependence, interbeing, co-meditating, intermeditating, interbeing together. Just sitting, just breathing, just being. Breathing together, sitting together, being together, incontrovertible. Let all the other balls in the air just drop. Anything that's alive, that has still karma in it, will bounce up again. Let the rest drop and fall away, all that old stuff. Entire baggage train we're dragging around of memory, the main constituents of ego, of selfness, of our own narrative, our own story, our own history. Let go of the baggage train. Remember the power of one, the engine of the great vehicle, bodhicitta. That's all we need. Wise, altruistic aspiration. Wisdom and compassion, interest, inseparable, aspiration, bodhicitta. Refocusing, reprioritizing, checking our priorities. Life is long enough for those who know how to live. As has been said, in Buddhist Standard Time, it's all there. But the nowness. It's not time for energy to relax, it's focus and priorities. Wisen up, friends. Lighten up and lighten up, both. That's how I deal with things, watching funny stand-up movies, reading funny things, joking around, playing with kids and dogs, cats, listening to the birds sing, watching the sun-dappled waters flowing by and flowing with it, letting go. If I stay on the bank like a solid concrete building, bulletproof windows, why not flow with the flow? I'm not even saying get into the flow. Let go. The flow's going through right now. Unimpact yourselves. As the Zen master said, his death poem, when I come galloping down Cloud Street, the void will gnash its teeth. Yeah, gallop down Cloud Street, even now in this Bardo. Whoa. Way to go. Don't just wade in the shallows. Swim, float, dive, dig it, swallow the whole ocean. Why not? You're infinite. The ocean's just a bubble in cosmic consciousness. Do your ground shift. Bring the big pot to the fore and put the little self-ego pot on the back burner for now. For later. Just sitting, just breathing, just being together. What could be better? Being held by the entire Sangha, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the entire invisible array, all of your protectors and angels and forebears and masters, mistresses, all one, and upholding it too, holding and being held at the same time, tight too, not separate. How sweet it is in the whole. Just breathing, expiring, expiration, and inspiring, inspiration. Expiring, letting go, dying to this moment. Next moment come, no baggage needed. You have to pay for the extra. You have to pay extra charges for every extra kilo you're carrying. Letting go means letting things come and go, letting be. Awareness alone, pure presence, naked awareness. incandescent, lucidity, luminosity, presence, what should we call it? Awareness with a capital A plus, just being with a capital B plus. See, 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 what did the Minor Bird keep saying in that great novel by Aldous Huxley, Island, Minor Bird on the Hawaiian Night Island? Only the one word, attention, attention, attention. He only wrote that novel 70 years ago. Early Bodhisattva of the Dharma movement, Aldous Huxley, The Doors of Perceptions, check it out. I think he died high on LSD with his wife, brilliant Laura Huxley, beside him and guiding. I'm not recommending, I'm just recalling my initials. It is. Hello, I guess. Thank you. Thanks to you. Thank you. Out in the way. Oh. Oh. In the beginning was the Om. Without that, nothing became, as I said. Oh. 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 Hello. I see you, young boy. Oh, welcome. Oh. Love to you, your beautiful family. Oh, look, Nathan's monkey mind at work. Oh. I'm telling you, you can't take this meditation stuff too seriously. Life goes on. No, anyway, it's all part of it. All good, Kunta Zampo. That's the little meeting, Kunta Zampo. Probably good, all good. We've finally brought that saying into our culture. Acceptance, appreciation, savory. The out breath, I like to aspirate a little more. Remind me, say everybody say for Dr. Dash. Don't worry, nobody's listening. You can let yourself go. Dr. Das. Don't be shy. David K. I see you. Carol. Glory be here now. Debbie Zoom. See you all. Can't mention all your names. Oh, you know who you are. With a big exhalation. What a release. What a relief. Emptying yourself out totally. May the force be with you. Carol Pye, Joel Sheldon, all my favorite people here. Fiona, Tara, hi favorite people. We should see everybody saying Vince Duggan, but I don't. Hi Vivian, Vicky, everybody. Jonathan, not you, LS. Sure, you too, McNevin. Why not? Or one. The chosen are those who choose. Many are called, but few choose to go. Diana, Isabel, who else? That's the Steve, Diana, Suridas, Elizabeth, emptying yourself. The less of me, the more room for thee, oh Lord. I should say, Lord Buddha. As they say in India, Buddha Bhagavan. Not my will, but thine, oh Lord. Lord Buddha, if you wish. It's a placeholder, more than we can understand. Letting go, letting be, being is primary, the ends, our true nature, our identity, all good. Assume your Buddha seat. Just sitting Buddha, as the master says. Downless awareness. Monday, with John, start. see, Suzanne, why not? Jonathan Frank, Drew, Mr. Blue, Leo too, why not? The last shall come last. Less of me, or more room for thee, sacred other. Self, oceanic being, not just little bubblehead. We collect bobbleheads, but we're the original bobblehead or bubblehead. So the Buddhist saying, attitude transformation saying, is drive all the blame into the true culprit, egotism, separateness, selfishness. Assume responsibility. Who's doing what around here? Be the Wizard of Oz, not just one of the flying monkeys. Source, in effect. Oh, let's see the source, the spring, the ground, the source of being. Oh. Oh, mani padme hum. Oh, mani padme hum. Oh, mani padme hum. Padme hum. Padme hum. Padme hum. Oh, mani padme hum. Oh, mani padme hum. Oh, mami padme hum. Padme hum. Oh, mani padme hum. Oh, mani padme hum. Oh, mani padme hum. Oh, mani padme hum. Padme hum. Padme hum. Padme hum. Oh, mani 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 padme hum. May His Holiness the Great 14th Dalai Lama live long and strong in his liberating Buddha activity, enlightening activity, continue and benefit the whole world, the whole universe. May the beleaguered people of Tibet and all those who were oppressed be eased, be freed, be liberated. May all this country, all the what's called Black Sea area, also Southeast Asia, all the third world developing countries, the poor and starving, which could be the majority of this world. You can remember any statistics, it's not good. The violence and hatred, selfishness, cruelty, meanness recede. And the Bodhisattva, Bodhicitta heart rise, shine like the ever-rising great eastern sun of wakefulness, of awakening, of enlightenment, the ever-rising great eastern sun of Rigpa, super awareness. Peace, harmony, shanti. So, more mouths to Buddha's ears, as they said. Imho, hallelujah, amen. Ah. Does anybody have any questions or short sharing today?
We do have a question, Lama. Isabel asks, and let me see if I can. She wants to know, how do we get beyond the anger and angst of our current environment, current events? And how do we not get confused with the emotions of that and then the juxtaposition of that with non-doing? How do we turn that into right action?
So get beyond non-doing. And what was the third? Something, cultivate right action?
Yes.
That's what you said?
Yes.
Right. So there it is. That's how. Rather than whining and complaining that there's three questions there, with, how to get beyond, transcending, getting beyond, transforming. And the second one, whatever it was, let's say accepting, I can't remember exactly what it was. And the third one, cultivating right action, something like that. Oh yeah, the second one was non-doing, not accepting. That's what I'm saying. So there are many ways to approach this, but time is short here. And also I'm not the answer man. This is question and response, I guess, I've heard now in modern times. As soon as there's one, there's two. If there's self, there's other, and so on. Basic, ancient, universal understanding or philosophy. So in Buddhism, there's like the ultimate reality of non-doing or being or allowing or non-attachment, equanimity, which we cultivate. But actually, that is a steady state. That's how things are. Thus, the absolute or highest or ultimate teachings of non-dual, non-duality, or acceptance, radical acceptance, unconditional acceptance, or cultivating equanimity and detachment, as well as compassion and altruistic action, love and action. So in the absolute, nothing happens, as they say. In geologic time and space, doesn't matter that much who wins a local election, whether it's presidential or our own, elected officials locally, Congress people or whatever we have here, justices, et cetera. But in the relative, it matters. It could matter a lot. So the absolute and relative, the world of shunyata, oneness, emptiness, what words can encompass that, and the relative world of karma, of causation. Of course, it matters if our child gets sick How can you say it doesn't matter? Just because we'll all die in the bigger scope of geologic time and space. But here, it matters day to day. And everything we do, think, and intend matters a little and has a ripple effect. It's karmic causation, cause and effect. What the Bible says it in the form of what we sow, we will reap. This is not just an Eastern thought about karma and causation. So at the same time, we learn to try to see through the illusory, momentary, dreamlike things and be at peace with how it is, as well as attend to business, what needs to happen, what we need to do. Grab the kid out of the street, take our medicine every morning, try to change the social systems for the better, be better people, make a better world, and so on. If all is equal, why should we inhibit the wish to be better people or make a better world, to transform, to grow, to evolve? Why should we inhibit that natural impulse, that natural inherent bodhicitta? On the other hand, we can still have peace. So it's said that the Buddha never moves from the Dharmakaya, or our own true nature is unmoved, but our relative, we can refine and transform and transmute and develop our relative nature, ourselves, our health, our body, our community, our relationships, our environment, the air, the water, the sky, and so on. And the challenge is to hold that together, not just to flip-flop like a pendulum, although that's fine and that's part of it. Can we hold it together in our mind at the same time? So even though we become more equanimous or detached, we still care about the children playing in the backyard enough to keep one eye on them in case they need us, anything happens. We don't just say, oh, Johnny fell down. Doesn't matter. We look and see, oh, is Johnny okay? Did Johnny break something? Or it's just pretend. So these are the two sides of the absolute and the relative about accepting or oneness or non-doing, I think she mentioned, and the spiritual social activism of the bodhisattva, compassion, the compassionator, altruism, generosity, and all the other paramita virtues. And that's how it's explained, absolute and relative bodhicitta, the ultimate of the Buddha nature and the relative of, we could call it human nature or animal nature or like relative self nature, personality, but including all beings, not just humans. But you could say Buddha nature and human nature. Thus, the Zen saying, when you become you, Buddha becomes Buddha. In other words, being an authentic human being is Buddha-ness in action. That's what we're here for. That's what we're here to learn. That's what we're here to come home to or align with. How to be spirit in a nitty-gritty human, relative world. And that's how we find heaven on earth, not just later after we die or in some other planet, or, heaven is greener on the other side somewhere, postponing it, which is so dissatisfying. It's always elsewhere. Then, if we can't be here now, guess what? We won't be there then. That's an ancient saying I made up. I think it's very apt. So I hope that's helpful, Isabel. It's a big question you asked. We all have that question about the balance between being and doing. That's an ancient discussion in philosophy, and the way you asked it, it's about the apparent contradiction of non-doing, acceptance, and caring about the world with compassion and action and so on. So I hope that's helpful. Any other questions? I can see time is running. Now that's a big subject we just discussed. One could think about it and read about it and look into it a little more.
No other questions right now. I'm sure everybody's chewing on that.
Doing and being is the ancient philosophical construct. And what's the relation with doing and being? We're so busy doing in our modern, speedy, whatever culture, life, that we come to these contemplative practices to cultivate the inner life or being, but ultimately don't we have to balance the outer life and the inner life? Not just all become hermits or shut-ins. Thus, the Dzogchen saying, which I've often quoted from the great Dzogchen master Patrul Rinpoche, our own teachers like Guru's Guru or Grand Guru in Tibet. Beyond action and beyond inaction, the sublime Dharma is accomplished. Beyond action and inaction, the sublime Dharma is accomplished. Thus we talk about, and I've made this word, unmeditation, undoing the habit of overdoing. Yet still I meditate every morning somehow. I do that much. But that's all I can do. Once I sit down and meditate, then I stop doing, theoretically. I paid at the office. Leave me alone. I already paid my dues. Now I'm undoing the habit of overdoing. I'm just sitting here like a bump on a log. No problem. The bump is part of the log. The log is part of the forest. And the roots are all intertwined underground, as we all know. It's really one tree, the whole forest. So I think we have gotten to the end of our time. I have to look, actually. Oh, we have 4 minutes left for questions or just anything. I want to say again what I mentioned in passing before. I could talk about Buddhism, philosophy, and other things all day. I don't really want to, but I mean, it's fun and interesting if we have, that kind of interest and relationship. It's very rich for me, at least for some of us. But I don't want to do that. I'm going to go back to what I mentioned in passing before, which I would like to highlight. People are often asking, we often ask each other, how are you doing in these days of COVID or whatever it is, the current events, as somebody said, is a good catch-all phrase. And particularly they ask me because I'm the Lama or something, or maybe it's because they see me as very calm and never getting angry and other, projections and imaginations. And it's how I cope with, I'm going to use my friends with current events or things today. And there's a lot of things to say about that. But one of them, as I mentioned, is taking some time every day to laugh. And everybody knows I like to joke around and all. But besides that, I actually watch, like the Netflix specials, the stand-ups, the one-person shows. I love them. I watch funny movies. Ask me about any chick flick. I've probably seen it with my late wife, Debbie. All of Downton Abbey. The one about the nurses, the British one about the nurses, I can't remember the name of, much recommended. I have fun with that. I enjoy How to Lose a Guy in whatever, 10 days, 50 dates with the person that has no memory. Adam Sandler movie. This is not to improve my mind. I spent my whole goddamn life to improve my mind. I'm done with selfing and improving my mind. I want to go out laughing and enjoying it, and roping in whoever I can get into watching it with me or laughing about it. And I think that's very important. In fact, yes, David, thank you. I see what you're saying. It's partly for you. My late father-in-law was a serious person, a great guy, a father, a grandfather, husband, a lot of things. He has to take care of the poor and services center that he rebuilt from an old church for the people without papers in this country who can get whatever they need there temporarily. Let's call it I don't know what they call it, a community center for the disenfranchised. He had testicular or prostate cancer for years. He retired, and then he built that church into a serve and feed, take care of the poor without papers center. And then he when he was homebound, he spent a lot of time watching the cartoons and the funnies on TV. Not just the good stuff that I was mentioning, but even the better stuff like Bullwinkle the Moose and, you know, cartoons and whatever he loved or remembered from his own 70 or 80 years of life. Not only that, he had no hesitation to try to rope in whoever was walking around past any doorway or window, to rope them in to you know, join him in this very, very, very important occupation, whether it was during the day or during the night. And it was good for everybody, and everybody loved it. You know, if you joined him, you loved it. If you didn't join him, you appreciated being inviting him. You appreciated being invited, and you appreciated him smiling and laughing. And you also appreciated fighting and resisting and escaping, because you can't spend all your time in that if you're a mother or a worker with several kids. But he was retired and sick, so he could. Anyway, he made the whole thing into Kunta Zampo's Buddha field of all good. That's my point. Why can't we do that now? Do we have to wait till our last months of life? We're going to retire now from selfing, empire building, accumulating, improving our minds, and so on. There's so much more to life than the life of the mind. Right, bookstore owners? I'm not going to pick on you. I don't want to be a pain in your, dare I say, neck. Anyway, I wish you well and love you all. That's what I'm sharing today of myself. Not just to tell a story about an old guy that died who watched the cartoons in his old age as if he was senile, which he wasn't. He was a Kentucky colonel. That's like being knighted in Kentucky. He was a tremendous person, and we all love him.
Thank you, Lama.
His grandson asked, where did Grandpa go? And his grandmother said, he's up in heaven building more churches, so when we get there, we can all live with him together in the community center up there and get whatever we need. Think about that. Is that the Bodhisattva in, like, you know, without philosophy, just like grandma talk, you know, the wisdom of the heart, the grandson giving him the best she's got? He's in heaven building as usual. So when we get there, we will have somewhere to be, of course, with him. So that's kind of what we're doing here too. Anyway, thank you. Beautiful.
Thank you.
With our summer retreat in mid-July, virtual, our question and answer session one of these Saturdays. And on these Sunday get-togethers, I really appreciate being together like this in these beleaguered, let's say, days. Love to one and all. Kelly, do you have some announcements, or are you going to go out with some singing or jokes?
Well, I would just like to invite everyone again to choose to be with us on summer retreat. It's always the more the merrier, and the more the merrier, even on Zoom. And so we hope to see you all there, July 15th. And we'll get more wonderful stories and connection and love and opportunities to just be together. Registration's in the chat. And that weekend, we won't have meditation town hall because we'll be on retreat. So, thank you as always, Lama. We so love you and appreciate you.
Thank you, my dear Kelly of Garrison, New York, of all places. Valley. Be well. Love to one and all.